1, 2, 1, 2. Gottle of gear. Okay, ready when you are, sweetheart.
Do I get a microphone or...?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is she here to interview you as well?
Well, no, but...
Then shut it, Susan! Okay, so, my name is Henry Dedson, and Keith Flapp was my former double-act partner. And, before you ask, no, I've got no idea who stabbed Keith in chest. All I know is he stabbed me in the back.
It was the 14th of November 1999. The call came in about 8:50 p.m. The whole major crimes unit was already at the theatre. We'd all booked tickets to watch Keith and Fungo for Sargie's birthday. But our radios were off. Well, it's just good theatre etiquette. And the queue for the ice creams was very long, so we weren't aware of the murder until about 9:30, when the ice cream girl told us they were out of chocolate chip and that Keith had been stabbed.
Devastating news tonight as beloved ventriloquist Keith Flapp has been found dead in his West End Theatre dressing room. The police say they are treating the death as highly suspicious.
Keith Flapp was a very traditional act, in that he always used the interval to get drunk. His favourite tipple was Tesco Value Single Malt. I know. You can take the man out of the working class. Anyway, when I opened the door and saw him slumped in his chair that night, I just assumed he'd blacked out. It was only after I'd done my usual routine of cleaning up his blood and wiping my fingerprints from the room that I realised he was dead.
999, which service do you need?
My client's been stabbed. He's not breathing, and he's meant to be on stage in 5 minutes.
Wait, hold on. You said he's not breathing. Are you sure?
Yes, I think he's dead.
Well, if he's dead, then why did you call 999?
Because it's an emergency.
How is it an emergency if he's already dead? Eh? Nothing we can do to bring him back to life now, is there? We're not wizards. Bloody time wasters.
He was impaled in the chest with the sword that his dummy Fungo was wielding as part of their act. It was quite funny, actually. There was this whole joke in Keith's show about how Fungo had this huge sword and Keith only had a little one. Oh, it's clever, though. I mean, kids would never have twigged it was a joke about willies. That's what made Keith a genius. He trusted us to pick up on the subtle humour. No one's laughing now, are they? No one's laughing now.
Keith wasn't just my favourite client. He was my best client. Which is why I keep his legacy alive today, through licensing and merchandise. Which, when you think about it, is better than him actually being alive. I mean, you can't cancel yourself when you're dead, can you?
Prime Minister Tony Blair has today announced a 2-week period of national mourning to honour Keith Flapp, describing him as the people's ventriloquist.
Keith's death sent shockwaves through Britain. Keith was the man who made ventriloquism more popular than the Spice Girls, and sexier than the Spice Girls, who people found sexy back then. Every kid wanted a puppet for Christmas. Schools banned them because kids wouldn't pronounce their B's properly. A whole generation gave themselves dummy wrist. And today, more than 2 decades later, it's all over Netflix, HBO, Pornhub. People are having dummies instead of having kids.
and it's all thanks to Keith Flapp. He redefined the medium. He was the Beatles of ventriloquism.
Keith was the David Beckham of making lots of money.
Keith Flapp was like Picasso, a total fucking bastard. I'd say, I hope he's being tortured in hell right now, but knowing Keith, he's probably torturing everyone else with his insipid, low-rent rip-off of my act.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised someone killed Dad. The only people who liked him hadn't met him. You know?
I'm sorry. I still miss him. Every day. I just can't believe he's gone. It just seems so unfair that dogs have shorter lifespans than we do.
Yeah, can we talk about Keith?
Keith? I thought you said that we were here to talk about a tragic death. Okay.
Keith was like that optical illusion with the vase. If you look at him long enough, you realise he's two-faced. Plus, everyone knew the guy was a creep. I asked him for a hand once. You know what he did? Shoved it up my arse. But seriously, though, I want to know the name of that bastard that murdered me old friend, so I can look him in the eye and shake his hand.
Well, he wasn't all bad, Henry.
You didn't know him, Susan! Shush! Sorry about her. But hey, if you want to know who bumped him off, clearly Fungo, right? He's other doll. I always knew that dummy was shadier than a really big parasol.
Well, Keith, to celebrate you naming me as the sole beneficiary of your will, why don't we celebrate with a nice room-temperature glass of gin?
Why, thank you, Fungo. I think I will. Fungo, what did you put in that? It tastes like cyanide.
Wait. How do you know what cyanide tastes like, Keith?
Look at me, Fungo. Do I look like the kind of bloke who hasn't tried to kill himself before?
The strange thing about the crime scene was that Fungo wasn't there. So I've always had this theory that whoever killed Keith had some kind of obsession with his act and kept the doll as some kind of sick memento.
That's ridiculous. I don't think whoever took Fungo killed Keith. I mean, who's to say that Fungo even got taken? I mean, maybe he left of his own accord to go track down the killer. And the reason why it's taken him decades is because he's only got little legs.
Could Fungo have left Keith of his own accord to track down the killer?
No.
Oh, please. Of course dummies can leave people. I can leave Susan here anytime I want.
Please don't.
I'm sorry. You're insinuating that I was sleeping with Fungo? That I was having a lust-ridden, torrid affair with the dummy behind my husband's back? One that I still reminisce about quite fondly. I mean, yes, he was a doll, but he had so much more charisma than Keith did. I mean, he literally had washboard abs.
No, we didn't bring up Fungo, but...
Well, I didn't.
With Fungo. Why did you tell me that? I didn't need to know that. How would you even... It's not even... Christ. But look, Dad wasn't killed by his dummy. A dummy can't kill a man.
Can a dummy kill a man?
No.
And anyway, it's obvious who really killed Dad. I mean, I don't care what the papers say. It was clearly, blatantly, Malloy.
Malloy? Malloy Mangle? No, no way. Malloy loved Keith. I mean, yes, loving Keith is weird behaviour, but there's no way Malloy would ever kill anything that could talk. I think that was his rule.
Malloy Mangle would never hurt a fly. A pig, yes. A cow, definitely. A baby sheep, no question. A cat, always and on sight. I once saw him break a horse's neck with his bare hands. But he'd never hurt a fly. Or Keith, or any other irritating little pest.
I didn't have a choice when it came to arresting Malloy Mangle for Keith's murder. His fingerprints were on the knife. He was covered in blood when we found him, and we found death threats to Keith in the dressing room written in Malloy's handwriting. I personally think he did it. No, not at all. I mean, when you meet him, you can just tell he's not a violent man.
I was Keith's living butcher from 1994 until his untimely demise. At the height of his fame, Keith had bought a mansion in Hampstead that happened to have an abattoir in the basement, and rather than replace it with a gym or a pool, he decided he'd much rather have the freshest meat. Naturally, that meant hiring someone who was good with a knife. Oh, yeah. Someone with enthusiasm for slicing open fat, squealing piggies and bleeding them out. Someone who looks at living creatures and only sees juicy, delicious flesh. And Noel Edmonds wasn't available, so they hired me.
You think I was sleeping with Malloy Mangle? Well, yes, I was. And make sure you put that in your little documentary, because I'm not ashamed of it. Quite the opposite. I've never known a man to be gentler with a knife. It was Malloy that killed my dog. But that's just what he's like. And he did it ever so gently.
Yes, Keith was stabbed with one of my knives. Her name is Tomoe. She's a Japanese Yanagi. I named her after a bloodthirsty samurai. And she can slice through sinew as gently as a leaf on the breeze. When Keith came to me and said he wanted to borrow one of my precious darlings to use as a pretend sword to play with on stage, I insisted that he experience his blade. In fact, I remember the last thing I said to Keith before he died. I said, "You want this knife, Keith? Do you? Well, here. Take it!" But of course, I was holding the knife the other way around. Safety first.
Celebrity butcher Malloy Mangle has been arrested today on suspicion of the murder of Keith Flapp. His close friend Nelson Mandela has released a statement saying this is the greatest injustice he's ever seen.
It seemed open and shut at first. But when the autopsy report came back, it revealed something truly shocking. Even though Keith had been stabbed in the chest, the coroner's report showed he'd been asphyxiated before he was stabbed. He'd been starved of oxygen, there was bruising on his neck, and his windpipe was crushed like a teenager who'd been cheated on. My theory is that whoever stabbed Keith did it to try and cover up how they really killed him, to try and throw us off the scent. And that's how we were able to rule out that Malloy could have possibly throttled Keith that night. His wrists had an alibi.
You've heard of tennis elbow. Well, that day I had stabber's hand. My fingers literally looked like a plastic glove filled with badger's blood. Besides, I find the idea of hurting anyone completely abhorrent.
But what about the animals you butcher? Why doesn't that count?
Because animals don't have feelings, of course. They're just meat on legs. Have you ever seen a pig weep or a horse of regrets? No.
Why were you writing death threats to Keith?
Because I was rooting for his success. Keith performed so much better on stage when he was terrified for his life, and I could literally taste his fear from the front row.
And that's why you wrote, I will slit you open from mouth to anus, empty you out, and wear your skin to my ballet class.
Precisely.
And I'm going to stab you to death during the interval.
How curious. This isn't my handwriting, madam. I'm certain I didn't write this one.
Even though to the layman these letters might appear to be written by the same person, they contain very subtle but pertinent differences. Would you like me to walk you through it?
Nah, that's all right.
Can I show you something?
Yeah.
They never did find the killer in the end. And due to the stress of the case, Scotland Yard reassigned me to traffic duty, which I did find more relaxing for the first few months, till they told me it was meant to be human traffic duty. I'd been stopping all the right lorries, but just been giving them speeding tickets. So when I got fired, I decided to go back to the Flapp case and investigate it in my own time. I narrowed it down to those who'd be most likely to murder him, which didn't actually narrow it down, but... These are from the ex-wife's bins. Yeah, she makes antidotes for a living. That's why she has all these dodgy plants. Oh, and then there's this. Have you met Henry Dedson yet, the puppet?
Yeah.
These are his bank statements. Nothing suspicious in them, but why does a puppet need a bank account? Bloody weird. And then, of course, don't forget, Keith gave him the shaft, ditched him for fungo. And then there's Tom, his son. He was only 15 at the time, but if he was my son, I'd hate him too. And then there's Madison Skirmish, the agent. Now, she claims that Keith always drank a whole bottle of Tesco Value single malt at the interval. Yet, there weren't any whiskey at the crime scene. Where'd it go? Very peculiar. Oh, yeah. And then there's this. You know, Skirmish did that. Caught me breaking into her office. In my defence, I wouldn't have had to break in if she'd left it unlocked. Do you know what I found in there? It was...
Richard, are you all right? Do we need to take a little break?
Richard! 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 Oh, Jesus. God. Hi, yes, I need an ambulance. Yes, a man has just collapsed and... I think he might be dead. What do you mean it's not an emergency if he's dead? Oh, this? Well, I just think it's a beautiful plant. It's only deadly nightshade if somebody eats it or you put it in someone's drink or something.
So what if I have my own bank account? What I spend my money on is my business.
What else are you keeping from me, Henry?
Not everything's about you.
Detective Prent drives me up the fucking wall with his questions. I swear to God, if he ever comes near me again, I'll just...
Ignore him.
People break into my office for all kinds of reasons, and usually leave injured. You'll have to be more specific, I'm afraid.
Detective Prent. That nosy, prying little so-and-so who kept on trying to pin Keith's murder on innocent people like me. What about him?
He was murdered.
Oh.
Good riddance. Richard Prent harassed me. He stalked me. He kept texting me, "Did you kill your dad? Did you kill your dad?" If he's dead now, at least that means he can go find Keith in hell and get all the answers he wants.
We didn't tell you he was dead.
No, no, you know what it was? I, must have just, heard you saying it to the camera guy. Yeah.
Do I look like the kind of bloke who hasn't tried to kill himself before?
Oh, bumsticks! I forgot we were filming tonight. Hey, cameraman! Yes, you. If this footage gets used out of context one day to make me look guilty for Keith's murder, I'll kill ya